is Michael Ray Pallares. I'm delighted to welcome him into Second Serve. And hi, Michael. One of the great stories of probably the last 6 months for me, and in terms of what you've managed to achieve over in the Philippines with One Love Tennis. I was watching the YouTube video last night again just to remind myself of it, and it was pretty special. Can you just talk a little bit about how you came to incorporate One Love Tennis back in 2011 and what it's meant to you and where it goes from here?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And, firstly, I want to give also a thanks to the Sohn Foundation for creating that documentary, which is a great representation of what One Love Tennis is all about. So, in 2011, I was working a project in Turkmenistan for the ITF called the Development of the National Sports Structure Project. And I took the national team to Thailand for a training block. And I gave them the weekend off, and I was trying to see, well, what can I do for the weekend myself? And, I was Googling different things, and I saw, these temples and monasteries, and I clicked on the Google image, and I thought, wow, that would be cool to visit. But it happened to be in 2 countries over in Myanmar. And so I thought, wow, that's a shame. But then I thought, you know what? I might as well go. Why not? I only live once. So I went to Myanmar.
Wow.
I stayed with a host. They had a plan for me every day. And so, one of those mornings he says to me, hey, listen, I'm going to take you to this monastery, and behind the monastery, there's an orphanage. And I told the children at the orphanage that you're staying with me, and they're all very excited to practice their English with you. Would you like to go? And I said, sure, that sounds like fun. So I went to the monastery. I went to visit the children at the orphanage, and each of the kids had an opportunity to say something to me in English, So, one would, get up and say, hello, sir, what is your name? I say, oh, my name is Michael Ray. What's your name? And the next one, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, how old do you think? And so each of them had a chance to say something. And so one of the boys looked at my, backpack, and I had a couple of tennis rackets. I always travel with a couple of rackets. I had a couple of rackets, the handles were poking out, and he kind of looked over and was trying to ask me, well, what are those? And I said, well, those are tennis rackets. And he said, kind of looked at me curiously, and I said, have you ever played tennis before? And he said, no. And I said, well, would you like to try? And he was like, yeah. And I said, okay, everyone up to the front. And we all did different activities. They had to bounce the ball in the racket 10 times, pass it to their friend. And so, at one point, they're all just kind of having fun, laughing, poking fun at each other, and doing everything on their own. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was just watching all these kids having fun playing tennis. And I'd been told these kids were there because their parents were murdered in the Civil War in Myanmar. And so, just to kind of wrap your brain around that, it's incredible to think, how tough these kids have had it, and how many negative memories these kids have had. Yet with tennis, which is obviously a passion for me, I'm able to bring happiness to these children and give them a positive memory. And so since I travel so much for work anyways, I thought, well, I can always visit an orphanage or an at-risk youth center, when I have a chance to spend a day with the kids, give them some rackets, nets, balls, shoes, teach them the game of tennis. And that's something that they'll always have with them for the rest of their lives. And so, I just basically was traveling around doing this all on my own. And obviously I was, bringing happiness to the kids' lives, but it was bringing a lot of happiness to me. Yeah. And so that's sort of how it began.
Yeah, and we're looking at some of the images here in the Philippines, and it looks like, you met an individual that had a court in his backyard, and it was just full of mud and dirt.
Salvador Gomez,
yeah,
right?
Salvador Gomez, and you went there and you said, hold on one second, how can we build a court? How can I help? And you were able to help him build a court there. Yeah,
and Nick, so I went to visit Salvador when I was just connecting through the Philippines on the way back home. I messaged him. I'd been following him for years on social media, and I messaged him, and he graciously invited me and a couple of my friends to visit him and the kids. And it was such a heartwarming experience. And he said to me, one of my dreams is to build a proper tennis court in the front of my house.
Wow.
And he had already been planning for this. They were basically in the front of his house. They were basically fixing a road, and he was allowing the community to park the heavy machinery in his property in exchange to leveling out the front of his house in the future, the possibility of a tennis court. And so I promised him, you know what, I will help you make that dream come true one day. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we were able to make it become a reality.
Unbelievable. Michael Ray, I watched this last night as Petch did, and I got tears in my eyes just because you've changed so many kids' lives. You've made such a positive impact on them to have that court. And I also couldn't help but notice so many of them were playing in bare feet, but there were a few that were really good tennis players. And what's happening with them? I think at the end of the documentary, it said that so many of them, their dream would be to play college tennis one day. Is that kind of what it's about? Give them something to do, some positivity, but maybe the good ones could actually play college tennis.
Absolutely, Tracy. So they, go to play tennis over at Salvador's before school and after school. And, obviously this is a positive thing for all the kids to be involved in. But aside from that, the ones that, stand out have the opportunity to get scholarships in the Philippines or maybe outside of the Philippines, depending on their level. Right. But it just opens up so many opportunities for them. And not only that, these kids, when they get their education, they're going to come back to their town as professionals, have it be doctors or lawyers or whatever it is they pursue, and they're just going to continue to create a positive impact. So it's the whole ripple effect is you can't even wrap your brain around just simply by having the opportunity to play tennis. And I'm just helping Salvador to pursue his dream.
And that's the beautiful thing about social media. We do sort of look at it a lot of the time, feeling as though it's kind of a den of deceit. But at times, social media can throw up these opportunities and inspirational stories, Michael Ray, that you've shown. Because Salvador's in itself is a pretty inspirational story. Obviously left the Philippines, he went traveling around kind of New Zealand. He was on the boats, I believe, and then he kind of came back with this love of tennis that he had never had up until that point to put down this court. And if you are watching this at home, please go and watch the video, go and watch the documentary. It's stunningly produced, but it's also the authenticity of the documentary that hits home the hardest. This is a piece of earth that he has turned into something that is going to be the foundation for these kids' lives.
Yeah, absolutely. He traveled working on boats for years. And one of the owners of the boats had a place in Fort Lauderdale, and he'd stop in Fort Lauderdale and watch people play tennis. And that's where he picked up basically the love for the sport. And the first thing that he did when he got his first paycheck was buy a tennis racket, It's
unreal.
And so it's an amazing story, really.
And Michael, we were on the phone yesterday kind of discussing, where you kind of look for locations to build courts. And I believe you're kind of looking at the Dominican Republic right now. And you had a story about a girl that you had met and a family you had met that's kind of driven that dream.
Yeah, so my next project is to resurface and build courts throughout the Dominican Republic, which is my home country. And I'm working towards that goal. But I also kind of am open-ended to any projects that anyone present to me. I had a person reach out to me in Ecuador. There's a girl that's 12 years old and lives in the indigenous mountains in Ecuador. She's top 5 in the country and has to travel 2 hours to the nearest tennis court.
Wow.
And they each way, and they sent me a picture of their makeshift court at home when she can't get to a proper court. And it was basically chalk in a backyard on some grassy field with a net up. And so, these are really the cool projects. And not only, am I trying to help the kids out, but this is also creating opportunity for aspiring coaches, for different programs that can be created in the area where there's really no tennis involved. Because tennis has so many positive benefits, have it be physical benefits, mental health benefits. There's just so many positive things that go with tennis, and by having the court, you can, present that to people that maybe didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, just feeling a part of something for these young kids, right?
Amazing.
And feeling cared about and some place to go at each day. I mean, we have a lot of places in the United States where the kids go to get educated and they get to play tennis. But look at that tennis court. I mean, they're playing with their feet on dirt. And is there a website that you have that people can get involved? I'm like ready to travel over there. Come on, Tennis Channel, we're going. We're going to help them out. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Absolutely. The website is onelovetennis.org. There's a donate button, and there's also a contact us button. Sometimes people, send material, which I'll bring with me to my projects: rackets, balls, nets, shoes, clothes, or donations, obviously, to help build the court. But yeah, onelovetennis.org. You can, reach out to me and learn more about the foundation.
Is the ITF involved at all, the International Tennis Federation? I mean, I know they have so many projects going on, but they do like to help we've seen kids in Africa. Yeah. Haven't we seen kids in Africa where they're out on this court that they've made in their backyard? Have they been able to help at all?
So I've reached out to the ITF. I've worked several projects for them. So they're aware of what I'm doing. Also, different foundations have reached out to me. There's a foundation called Tennis Aid, which basically collects professional tennis players' gear once the model changes from the French to Wimbledon to the U.S. Open. Wow. And then they'll give that gear out to at-risk youth or to, underdeveloped countries, or even to myself to bring to different projects. So there's a different ways to help out. It's not just monetary, but I think as a whole, is the main thing is for people to understand there is a foundation out there that is helping kids and helping people through tennis, and we can all do it together.
Yeah, I went on the website last night and tried to hit the donate button. Unfortunately, I'm on a UK phone number here. I couldn't get the authorization code for you, Michael Ray, but I promise, and you can check my message when I go home after this, that I'll be donating to what is an inspirational cause. I know that you've worked in Malta, Tanzania, Guam on top of that. I'm curious, when you look at the Dominican Republic, you've got a pretty big plan there, I believe. You're looking to try and get sort of 10 courts up and running. It's quite a number of courts. It's tough enough to get a contractor in the UK to come around and fix my boiler and my plumbing. How do you find these people in these locations to come and build tennis courts?
So what I'm doing in the Dominican Republic is I'm opening up an application for whoever needs help or needs a court to be fixed or resurfaced. In the Dominican Republic, I have a lot more connections. Obviously, Salvador was a straight direct point of contact that I had in the Philippines. So each case is a little bit different. And it's not that easy, especially when you're working, in a different country and trying to get things accomplished. But yeah, basically that's the way I do it. I try to figure out who needs the most help and where I can do the most impact. Not only, building, the idea isn't just to have the court built, but it's to create the programs and opportunities for people to benefit the most out of having the court.
Well, Michael Ray, we can't thank you enough for being on the show with us. I mean, tennis is a sport for a lifetime, and that's what you're creating for these kids, and a way to kind of get through the things they're getting through into a sport that's just so great. And again, we will be doing everything we can at Tennis Channel to help out. And onelovetennis.org, everyone can see there, and everyone should go there and help donate to what you're doing, because it's such a great cause, my man.
Great job.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Great
I'm
job.
glad to see you healthy as well. I know you had pleurisy and pneumonia this year in January. I also had that. It's not fun. So glad to see you up and running. The world needs people like you, Michael Ray. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks
Great
for joining,
job.
big man. Keep it going.